Are we good to go?
Okay. Thanks,
Okay, we're
Ari.
live. How exciting, we're live. So everyone, I'm declaring open this meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz. It is July 20th, 2020. We're opening the meeting at 7:02 p.m. Via Zoom and a live broadcast on YouTube. Welcome everybody, and thanks for participating and showing up. Our agenda, which I think everybody can see on the screen, includes the approval of minutes. And I'm wondering, Valerie, if you could kindly bring up the minutes.
I will do that.
And we'll hear if anybody wishes to make any changes.
They're
Okay.
visible, right?
Minutes are up. I've reviewed them, so I'll step back and happily hear any suggestions for amendments.
The minutes look good to me. I wouldn't suggest any changes.
Look good
Same
to
here.
me.
Pat, I can't read any expressions. Anything you'd like to suggest?
No, minutes seem fine.
Can you move them down a little? Because it won't move on my computer. I can't get it to go down, so I can only see up to here.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Let me know if you need the next page, Susan. Okay.
So Sue and Zach, are there any amendments you would
No,
suggest?
it
or
looks
do you need more
great to
time?
me.
Nope, looks good to me also.
Okay. Could I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, I think I heard Pat and Zach in that order. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a little like a game show, isn't it? The first one to the buzzer. Okay, all those in favor of approval of minutes as submitted without corrections?
Yep, aye.
Aye.
Aye from Olson. Okay. Valerie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. Next agenda is technically scheduled for 7:15, so we won't public hearing before that, but I do think that we can probably begin consideration of HPC 20-06, which is an application from Dana Rudikoff at 168 Huguenot Street to install a rear yard shed. And Dana, I think I'm seeing you on this call.
You are. Hello.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to
Hi,
our
Dana.
virtual meeting.
Thank you.
So I think the most helpful thing is exactly what Valerie just did, which is to bring up the application form. And Dana, we usually invite applicants to kind of walk us through the form or explain things that you felt you couldn't fit on the form or thought of later.
Okay, I'm not sure there are too many of them. I recently moved to this house and I'm in need of some additional space for lawnmower, snow thrower sort of things. And so I'm proposing putting a shed in my backyard. I spoke with the neighbors on each side of my house and they were agreeable with that proposal. I also know one of them submitted a comment for consideration for this meeting, which he shared with me ahead of time. My intention, it's going to be in the backyard. It will be somewhere between 10 by 10 and 12 by 12. I believe it is going to be 10 by 10. I included a photo of a shed that is carried by Lowe's, and it will either be that exact shed or something substantially similar. and it will be toward the back of my yard, close to where the trees and the high grasses are between my yard and the rail trail. And when I had originally called the Village of New Paltz Building Department to find out about the permitting process, they let me know that I needed to come to you first. But because our conversation went in that direction, we didn't get so far as discussing the size of offsets. So I did call today. I spoke with Corey and he indicated it's 20 feet from the property boundary. So I'm not sure whether my rough rectangle is technically 20 feet, but I would be intending to have it obviously in compliance with the required offsets. And so I'm not sure whether that might mean it's a little bit more toward the center.
Okay. That's great. Dana, there's I guess a second part to that. There are two sections of the code that apply to sheds, and this is actually something I need to be reminded of. There's a more lenient version of those setbacks that we can discuss if you want, and it basically requires 12 feet or the height of the structure, which probably is about the same. So we can discuss that as we get into the discussion.
Dana, that's in a follow-up email I sent you this afternoon. I'm not sure if you would have seen it yet.
I had to go pick up kids from camp. While I was gone, I've got like 25 new emails and I haven't managed to sort through them all quite yet.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think we can get there when we get there, but I think there are competing definitions of setback for this kind of structure in Huguenots, in the Huguenot Street district. And
Okay.
one gives you a bit more latitude if you choose to exercise it.
Great. Well, I am interested also in maintaining good relations with my neighbors. So I think whatever is the official distance, I would also probably be inclined to just discuss it with my neighbor and do it at a distance that is mutually agreeable.
Sure. That's a very good attitude. Great. So everyone, let's not open public hearing yet, but could I invite commissioners to comment or ask questions?
I feel comfortable with it because I know Rosemary and her husband, and Dana, you're going to have wonderful neighbors. They're just delightful people. And if they're comfortable with it, then it's probably going to be just fine. No.
Okay. Thank you, Sue. Camilla, any questions or comments?
I would say that if we observe the 20 feet setback rather than the 12 that you suggested, Tom, if we have a larger setback and the shed is positioned more towards the middle of the house, it would be less visible from Huguenot Street as well. So I would agree with Dana as well that the 20 feet setback would be more acceptable or more desirable rather. But the shed itself, I think the picture that Dana submitted looked really nice. And that's a great idea to paint it the same color as the house. So that we know that the two structures are related to each other and not some random structure that was just put on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with those points
Zach,
as
could
well.
I include any comments?
I thought that the shed that was chosen looks nice, and from my site visits and walks down Huguenot Street, I think it'll be not be very visible from the road at all. So yeah, I don't have too many things to say about it. I think it looks okay.
Great. And how about Pat? Any comments?
I think the shed is very nice, and I agree with Zach. I don't think it's going to be very visible from the road at all.
Great. Okay. And Steve, how about you?
I walked by and I think the shed as designed looks fine. I think if it is offset, that will be even better. You know, it's very difficult to see to the backyard from the right side of the house, and only along the driveway can you see to the back where the shed would be. And I think being offset that 20 feet would be make it less visible from the road and better. I think it's fine.
Okay, great. And Dana, I would echo that. On my site visit, the one thing that I would consider just a consideration is if you notice to the north, which is your driveway side, that's probably the biggest gap to the back, and a 20-foot setback would move it toward the south, which is to say to the right of the image that we're all looking at.
Yes.
And I think probably, you know, a conversation with your neighbor would help. We can, if it's approved, we can approve a certain latitude to move it, you know, even further away from the property line if you so choose. And that would have the effect of getting it further off your neighbor's line, but also taking it a little bit more out of the view shed from Huguenot Street, if you follow my logic.
I do. The only thing that's a little bit funny, it's hard to see in this, there are a couple of spots where there are a couple of trees. And so I'm trying to have it as far back as possible. So I'm sure we can figure out what'll work best, but I would rather not cut down the trees. So I want to try to fit it as far back as possible, but in relation to those trees. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that image helps. Yeah. Yep.
So, sort of toward the middle right are the trees that I was referring to. I guess they're sort of shrubby trees.
Right. I don't think we're in any way trying to encourage tree cutting, so that's good. That sounds great. Does anybody wish to respond to any other comments or raise new ones? Okay. Valerie, do you have the letter from the Saldans? I'd like to have that entered into the record.
Right. I can read it in once we open the public hearing, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. So if it's at hand, we'll include that in the public hearing, which I think we can now entertain a motion to open at 7:15. Is there a motion to open public hearing on HPC 2006?
I move.
Moved by Camilla.
I second.
Okay, seconded by Sue. All those in favor of opening public hearing of HPC 2006? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think I heard unanimous. Are there comments from the public? That would include Susan and Chris. If you wish to comment, you're certainly of the public.
Nope.
And so is Mr. Apuzzo. Is there a comment?
John may still be muted.
Oh, yes, I think so. Okay. And Valerie, nothing in from YouTube?
Nothing on the chat, no.
Okay. Well, let's just give it one more minute and then we can obtain a motion to close public hearing.
Well, I can read
Dana,
those comments anytime
while
you're ready.
we're waiting, did you have any questions for us about the process?
I don't really think so. I have some familiarity. I'm an attorney, so I'm sort of familiar with process as a concept. And so this all felt, fairly normal.
Okay. Well, I ask, how are we doing on our process legally?
I don't exactly know what your governing statutes are, but it all seems very well organized and efficient to me.
Good. Well, thanks. We try. We try. Okay, I'm going to make a last call for any public comment. Is there
Shall I
some-
read the Southern Parsons comments?
Yeah, I think so. If there's nothing from YouTube.
Nothing on the chat.
Okay, sure. Val, do you mind reading that into the record, please?
Not at all. The letter is from Ken Pawson. I wish to comment on the application to the HPC for a certificate of appropriateness for a shed on the property of 168 Huguenot Street, application number HPC 2006. I write this on behalf of my wife, Rosemary Selden Pawson, and myself. We live in the neighboring property at 170 Huguenot Street. First, let us say that we're happy to welcome our new neighbor, Ms. Rudakoff, to Huguenot Street. We hope that she and her family enjoy living here as much as we have over the years. It's a wonderful place. To the matter at hand, we are fine with a shed on the property so long as all requirements of the building code are observed, including offsets from the neighboring property lines and harmony with existing structures. In particular, the shed should be at least as far from our property line as is the garage on the main house. The marked location on the aerial photo is not very precise in that regard, so we'd like to see clarification on the plans regarding this point. Also, the diagram shows the shed to be located near the high grass line at the rear of the backyard. If that is the plan, it's fine with us. The design in the illustration from the Lowe's catalog is attractive and looks like it would fit well with the neighborhood. We're pleased that our neighbor will be painting the exterior of the shed to match the house's exterior. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this application. Ken and Rosemary Pawson.
Great, thank you very much, Val. Commissioners, is there a motion to close public hearing?
I can move to close public hearing.
Thanks, Zach.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I think I heard Pat seconding. Okay. Commissioners, all those in favor of closing public hearing? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Valerie, so public hearing is closed. Commissioners, any further discussion? Miller, did you want to speak?
Sorry.
Camilla or Penn?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much, though, for asking.
Okay, good. Dana, I'll just make a comment just on my own behalf, not on behalf of the commission. I do applaud your idea of definitely talking with your neighbors at 170 and working out something that's comfortable for them. And if it's more than 20 feet, it's certainly going to be fine with the HPC. Whatever you can do to nudge it toward the south without creating other problems, I think would be good for the view shed of Huguenot Street. But I wouldn't make that a condition, just a recommendation. And actually, since I'm recommending, you might want to think about, I don't know what your installer, if you've even gotten to the point of an installer has recommended, but you'll get a lot more life out of the shed if it's placed on treated timber skids, usually 4x4s. And if you put down a gravel base, if you're comfortable with that aesthetic, it's going to last a lot longer than going straight onto the earth. Because the shed itself is almost certainly not made out of treated lumber, and that's going to shorten the life if you don't get off the ground. But that's just experience and a recommendation. It's not in any way a requirement.
Thank you.
Sure. And you're welcome to follow up if you want some of that in form. You're most welcome to email me.
Okay.
Commissioners, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion to approve the application as submitted with the understanding that the applicant is tending toward the 20-foot setback and intending to speak with her neighbors at 170?
I move.
So please go ahead.
I think I heard Pat and Camilla in that order.
Yep.
Not me.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You and Camilla, I think, Tom.
Okay, got it wrong, sorry. All right, is there, sorry, the motion's been offered. All those in favor of approval indicate. Aye from Olson. Okay. Now that's unanimous. Okay. Dana, you're most welcome in touch if you have any other questions, but at this point, what happens is we convey our decision to the building department. They'll actually have that tonight and you'll have a copy of the email. So literally, if you wanted to start shopping for it tomorrow, you can do that.
Great, thank you so much.
Dana, you may already be aware that they're a little backed up at the building department. They've had a whole slew of permits that they're working on. So you might want to give them a call and just see when it might be convenient to go ahead and pick that up.
That sounds good. And it's so hot right now. I think I could wait a little while until it cools down.
Yeah. You may also find that if it's going to be ordered from Lowe's, a lot of things are backed up,
Yes.
including the timbers. I mean, just impossible to find.
Yeah.
Good luck with the project and welcome to New Paltz.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to seeing you around the neighborhood.
Thanks, Dana.
Bye-bye.
We feel the same.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Forward to seeing the shed. Okay, thanks very much.
Have a good night.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Great, everyone, thank you. Let's move on to HPC 2007. And Val, if you don't mind bringing that up. This, everyone, is a preliminary discussion in anticipation of public hearing at a date not yet set. And I wanted to welcome, I'm sorry, I've just lost my video screen. Sorry.
John, thank you for being with us.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We sure can, yes. Thank you very much.
This is my first Zoom meeting ever.
Ever. Wow.
Ever.
How have you avoided it this long?
Yeah, indeed. Well, welcome to the meeting, John, and thank you very much for representing the Reformed Church. Again, would you like to take a minute and walk us through the project and some of the thinking that's gone into it?
Of course. We have an elevator in the back of the Reformed Church. It's been there since 1978, before my time. And I joined the church in the late 1990s, and the elevator has always been a finicky machine. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't work. And it completely died probably 3 years ago. We spent a lot of money trying to repair it. It could not be repaired. So we went ahead and put a handicap ramp access to the front of the church and installed chair lifts so that people can get up and through the entire church from downstairs to upstairs. And it seems to work. And it was obviously a temporary fix. So in the meantime, we've been trying to find a way to get the elevator up and running. And we've exhausted, because of the shaft that we have, the existing shaft, we've been kind of limited to what we can do. So we've come up with this new idea. Instead of having, our elevator has 2 doors that go north and south, and 1 door that opens into the parking lot. That is what makes this elevator so difficult, is that you enter from the parking lot, and then the other 2 doors come from the other direction. So we've come up with this idea to expand the elevator building. You know, basically, you know, it's the same roof line. We're just having access from the back of the church so that all the doors can be, actually they're gonna be east-west, so that we don't have to have a side door. So Alfondri Architecture, Joe Baglino, got these drawn up for us. And I don't know if you've all seen the copy of it. We're trying to keep it within the rendition of what's there, the same existing siding. We're gonna try and match the shingles as best we can. There we go. And Mark Mast has been critical with getting this project going, and funds, for the most part, have been secured. And you know, this elevator I was hoping was going to be done a couple months ago, but as you know, there's been many difficulties these past, you know, 4 or 5 months. So I don't even know at this point if I'm going to be able to get this thing up and running before the winter. But obviously, you know, the village department has had this permit for a couple months, and obviously this is going to be the next step. So I'm hoping that it's not going to be any more visible from the street than the existing structure is, because we're only going towards the back of the church. And I believe it's only 12 feet we're going. Might even be less than 12 feet.
John, is it that lower left corner drawing that's the best one to be looking at? I can move, you know, manipulate this drawing to some degree, but
yeah, that's the one I'm kind of looking at now. And there's going to be 2 doors. The door to the right, we were thinking of leaving it for like table access, you know, storage, and also for tables, like for the Apple Festival that they do every fall, and the Earth Fair, and so on and so forth. The second door, which would be facing which is, you know, closer to the west, is what will be the wheelchair accessible part of the building.
Got it.
I did take a couple of photos. I honestly don't know if they're going to be terribly visible at this point, but just to sort of clarify the drawings a little bit to give a sense of the location.
Yep.
We're talking about.
Yep. You've kind of, where that existing door is there, we're going to be going. I'm trying to look at the drawing with another pair of glasses here, because as you can tell, these drawings are very small.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 10 feet is all we're going across 10 feet more, and leave room for a new set of stairs to go down behind the church. In the second picture down, you can see like 2 little wooden posts there.
Right. And
that the new structure, I don't think is going to that middle post. Yeah, as you slide down, there you go. So where you see the brick there in the third picture down, that is where the new access door to the elevator shaft is going to be. So that all doors are going to be north, or going to be west and east. And that those old wooden steps that are there will be replaced.
Okay.
The footings are going to be like drilled with those techno, trying to remember, Tom, what they call them. And they drill them in, they drill them down, and that's going to be your footing. So it's going to be very little excavation.
I don't know the brand name, but they're like enormous, almost like an enormous.
It's like a big spiral auger bit that goes down, and that is what's going to hold the structure as a footing. So it's not going to be a lot of disruption to the existing dirt that's back there, because, you know, it is Huguenot Street, and we don't want to disrupt it any more than we have to. And so Alfondre was suggesting having them drilled out. And I think there's only going to be 5 posts drilled into the dirt.
Okay. That's very helpful, John. Thank you.
Because I've seen plenty of digs. I've seen plenty of digs in the church property where they're looking for, you know, all sorts of things, spoons, and, you know, they find bones and stuff. So the idea was not to disrupt any more than we have to.
Makes good sense. So colleagues, are there any questions for John?
No, thank
Camilla,
you.
please.
It's just very difficult to decipher anything from these drawings. Unfortunately, the writing is very small, and it's very difficult to see any measurements. And I think it would be helpful to all of us if if we would have the dimensions of the original structure and how it would relate to the new structure. For example, because if we are not seeing what we are about to approve at some point, it's just difficult to do it. I don't think we have enough information at this point. If we could have more specific and drawings, that would be helpful.
Well, I'm trying to think of, I mean, I'm looking at what the architect did. He almost has every elevation drawn. It's the roof line that's confusing?
It's the dimensions of the new building. We cannot see anything.
Yeah,
any of the measurements or any of the numbers, how many feet the new building is gonna be, the length and the width, and
from like I'm using double glasses
John,
here.
it may be that the
I have glasses
architect
too,
has
but
all that, but
Yeah, I mean, the dimensions are on there. The overall of the building is going to be 14 feet facing the parking lot. So that what you would see from Huguenot Street. He has it 14 foot, 11 inches. The existing structure is 6 foot, 5 inches.
Okay.
So it's a little wider. The upper right drawing, I don't know if you can scroll down that drawing there, Tom.
The upper right drawing, did you say?
Yeah, the upper right one. That kind of shows you the one on the upper right there shows you the existing building on the, that how the door opens. The new structure is probably twice as big as that little caboose that we have now.
I see, okay.
And that's still leaving room for a staircase to get down. An exterior staircase, that is. And it's going to be
found that.
And it's going to be going to the back of the elevator shaft. We're not going any bigger than we have to.
Okay. Zach, I think you were speaking.
I was just going to say that I found the, if just downloading the original attachment that Val sent us, I was able to zoom in on the plans and actually see the numbers myself, which was helpful.
Okay.
That's good to know. Thank
That
you.
might be a good suggestion. So you just downloaded them as PDFs and zoomed way in. Okay.
Yeah.
So that may answer, John, what Camilla was raising, which I would have also raised. Just in printed form, they're just so scaled down that I wasn't able to see. But I think Zach's solution gets us where we need to be.
I mean, I'm trying it on the screen. I don't know how successful I'll be, but I have just expanded it a bit.
Yeah, that helps a little. I mean, Alfondria Architecture gave me 2 full plans, which the building department wanted both of them for some reason, because I thought maybe you might want the other one, but they took both of them. And I mean, I could get the originals to you guys somehow. I don't know if you guys, I mean, in this virtual world, if it would help to get the original.
What I might suggest is if the architects, this can be paper free. These are almost certainly generated by a computer program. So if they could just do some detailed renderings, that would be all we need. Just a couple of details that really let us see the numbers. And that should be very easy.
The numbers are small. The piece of paper I have, it's a 9 by 11 piece of paper. It is hard to read.
Yeah. And that's what we were faced with. The other question I had, John, is you said that you're not quite sure about your timeline. Would it be comfortable if we scheduled you for the September meeting for a public hearing? Do you think we're there by then?
What would you would just need a more detailed drawing for a September meeting?
I thought would really help us. I mean, it could be that Zach's suggestion works, but on my particular screen, I'm still not really quite seeing what I'd like to see.
Yeah, because I mean, I can get in touch with Joe Baglino, who actually drew these, and if I'm specific to what you guys exactly need, I'm sure he can do it.
I think so. It should
Yeah,
be a pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, because as far as like the color and the look, it's not going to change any more than that's already there. You know, it's wood. You know, it's wood-sided building. It's not any vinyl or aluminum, and it's going to be asphalt shingles. And
Not tonight, tomorrow.
And other than that, I don't think there's going to be any more visibility from the street or from the parking lot. Just, you know, we're going to continue on with the same look and the roof line that is already there. It just to gain access to this elevator from the west is this whole debacle started.
Right.
I will say, just FYI, I took a few pictures from the Du Bois Fort next door and a couple of other spots right along the street, and the sight line really is not affected much at all.
Yeah.
I would agree, Val. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think because you're using good materials and being sensitive, that even whatever effect there is a positive, or it's not a negative.
But Tom, you're also saying that we would have to go through a public hearing in September nonetheless to approve this.
Yes, we do have to do public hearing. And that involves a little bit of legwork. I mean, you don't have that many neighbors, but neighbors have to be notified and there has to be signage. It's not particularly onerous, but it's a legal requirement.
Is that something that the church does, or you guys, or?
Well, it's a mix.
Yeah.
Typically, the way it works out, and Mark can tell you this as well, the applicant's responsibility is to do a mailing to neighbors and to post a sign. And I would do the legal notice in the newspaper and provide copies that would be mailed to the neighbors. It's we try to make it as easy as possible.
When you say neighbors, how far should we go? Should we make the turn on Huguenot Street there?
Well, actually, what I would do is provide a list of the neighboring property owners based on the buffer, which I believe is 200 feet that the building department gives me.
Yeah, because I know Mark lives next door. And
right.
I think there's only one other neighbor that might be within 200 feet of his next neighbor.
Yeah, Dina Du Bois is probably one of your neighbors because she owns property within that buffer, and probably Sue Wynn. And that may be just about all.
And the Huguenot Society.
HHS, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we might as well keep them in the loop.
Yeah, they will likely be on the list because they own properties right across the street.
Okay. So with this legwork of sending out some legal notices, the mail and the copies, I mean, this is something that almost sounds like I need a lawyer here.
No.
Not at all. I work with the building department to get the list of neighbors. I prepare the legal notice and I make the number of copies you need to match the neighbor list. And then the target date is 10 days before the public hearing. So I time the legal notice to hit the papers at that point. And it's up to the applicant then to put the sign in and to get the mailing done by 10 days before the hearing as well.
Is the local paper even printing anymore?
They're back to printing, but they're also online.
All right, good. All right, so I guess what I'm going to do is get ready for this. Do we know what day the September meeting is yet or no?
We do. I think let me just switch over to the agenda for a minute because I think it's on there. September 21st.
September 21.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, if everything goes well, we approve. You guys can hopefully approve this on September 21st. Then it would go to the village building department to approve. It's October.
Well, as you might have just heard with the last public hearing, we communicate with the building department right after the HPC considers and decides on the application. So there's email communication immediately. the unknown here, as we were talking earlier, is just access of the building department staff, because they are on a more limited schedule these days. So it just involves calling them and coordinating with them.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm well aware that they're backed up. I have another project that's backed up as well.
And also, just so you know, we were in touch with Corey today to get a sense of where they were in looking at the plans, and they're not this far yet, but Corey does expect to take a closer look this week.
All right, good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And hopefully when we hear from him, we'll have a better sense of,
Go ahead.
basically what the status of it all is, whether he has any concerns or recommendations.
Okay. So, all right. So I will get my things in order here. I'll ask the architect to kind of expand his original drawing, I guess, so that maybe we can have it just emailed to all of you. Would that be helpful?
Yes, you can send it to me at my personal address or at HPC at villageofnewpaltz.org, either one.
All right, excellent. Is there anything else I can answer?
Colleagues, are there any questions or concerns? Typically what we do in these, John, is if there's anything that looks like it may be trouble, we try to talk about it in a preliminary way. Personally, I don't see trouble apart from the point that raised, that I just really wasn't able to see the detail that I wanted to see, but we'll get that solved with some expanded drawings.
Okay, and like I said, I'm going to be at the church tomorrow morning. I got another project going on. Maybe I'll get some yellow tape just to show you in relation to the property exactly how big it's going to be.
That would be a great idea.
Would help.
Very helpful, yes.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. And if you have the possibility of snapping a few photos and sending them to Val, that would really help.
I have a ton of them on my phone, so I will be, because I already took a bunch to give to the architect, and so I still have them, and I'll be glad to send you as many as I got.
That sounds great.
Thanks so much. That would be helpful.
Excellent. All right. So the worst thing about this is I got to give the bad news to the congregation by email that this is it's probably not going to happen this year. Sounds like, the structure, might get it started, but might not finish it.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it would be helpful to get our update from Corey before you do that communicating. I don't know for sure, but.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be quite that pessimistic, John. September still gives us 2 solid months for outdoor work, at least 2. And if the building department knows that we're considering it, maybe you could have a conversation in the interim so that it's very fast.
I've already spoken to Corey a couple times about this. So, but I know it's a process. So we'll take our time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, one of the things about the process is it also protects the applicant from future complaints. This is everybody's opportunity to make a statement, and if they don't, then they've missed their chance. Camilla was hand.
I was just wondering, would it be helpful if we had an August meeting, an emergency meeting? Could that speed up the process, maybe?
Oh, that's an option.
And then
you mean you guys have an emergency meeting?
And do a public hearing then?
Your application.
Yeah, we typically don't meet in August, but we have had special meetings, and we could do that if the commission agrees.
And I think that's a way of saying, if you think there's a real risk that you're going to miss a season, then we would try not to make that happen.
Quite honestly, the people that want to work on this right now are buried. So I might be giving them some good news, giving them a little good news, because they're buried and they might not want to start it in August or, beginning of September. So if I give them another month, maybe it'll help them out. But until I get everything together and I get all the information to you, I don't want to ruin your August.
Okay. Well, we'll appreciate that. But if you think something changes, we can discuss that possibility.
Great.
I think maybe a good way to proceed is to try to get everything in order that you can with the building department so that when our approval comes, if we approve it on September 21st, then you can really hit the ground right then and maybe even pencil yourself in with the contractor.
I'll be glad to do that.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks for all your help, John.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Okay. So everyone, thank you for that. And Valerie will make sure to put them on the agenda for the 21st.
Got it.
And I think we can keep the door open for the possibility of an August meeting if that's going to make a big difference to them. Our next agenda item is to welcome Susan Stessen-Cohen. Susan, thank you very much for joining us and staying with us for the last 45 minutes. Susan and I communicated by email a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, largely to do with 5 Broadhead, which we'll talk about later in the meeting, but also just the general question of what role HPC can play in recognition of the African American contributions to New Paltz. And Susan really is the local expert on this topic. And so we're going to talk, Susan, specifically about walking tours in the fall, and also any comments that you wanted to make or suggestions you wanted to make around the larger issue. With that, I'll hand it over.
Sure. I've been working, like I've gotten so many emails from people and calls from people saying, okay, when's your exhibit going to be ready? When's your exhibit going to be ready? And there's so much right now. That's like, while I'm listening to you, I'm entering my data and I'm going through every census from 1940, 1930, 1925, 1920, 1915, every state and federal census from New Paltz, and putting down the data from every person of color, whether they're considered mulatto or Black. I have about 800 or so entries so far. And some of the people obviously repeat themselves, but I'm going through each census, color coding the families that are together. I have like 8 fields or 7 fields that I'm going through. After, when I get to 1850, then it changes because there, it starts being, who are the people that live in their own household? And if they're not owning their own household, then they don't, I can't find anything about them. So I kind of cheated and went to 1830 just to kind of see how many people were having their own household, because I was wondering, okay, so people that were born after 1799, people that were born before 1799 are freed in 1827. So you do get a large influx of people that are now, they're free. So where are they going? How many people have their own households? And I kind of cheated and went back to 1830, which I tallied all the numbers and all the people. And I think it was like, where are my numbers here? Something like 20 something people, like 145, 245, 264 people of color are living in households of other people. And there are 26 people that have their own household somewhere in New Paltz. The problem is it's really hard to locate where they were living. And I'm always curious, what were they living in? And I actually found, in 1850, I'm finding some people that are in log cabins. It says cabin or log cabin. Most people are either in brick or framed or stone. And then I saw something that said wood cabin or something. I forgot how it's notated. But so part of what I'm doing is trying to follow people from, I started with the manumission ledger, and actually I have some information before, and follow these families and their names that keep coming up again and again, and to see what happened to them. Where did they go? I know Josephine did a piece on Jacob Weinkoop, which I kind of talked to Ellen years ago about him, because he was one of the people that we actually, I don't know if you know, but Nanette Lefevre, her sister Amy Lefevre, had some glass plate negatives, and she had one of John Weinkoop, and she had one of another woman, a Dinah Freer, who I'm trying to do some research on, because we have very few images of people of color from that time period. And I'm trying to find out where they were living, what houses are in back of them. So again, it's a lot of data, it's a lot of information, and I'm trying to put it together so that I have stories. That's kind of what I try to do, is make, like, the data isn't very interesting to most people, but the stories that I can kind of find out from some of them, you know, once I start sorting the data. So I start watching where the families are going and who's going where, and then looking up all the newspaper clippings. I'm hoping to get some interns in the fall. You know, I take anywhere between 1 and 4 or 5 interns from SUNY every semester. And now that I think a lot of students are looking for things that they can just do virtually. So I have a lot of information that's on different websites that needs to be put together. I am doing a lot of work on the AME Zion Church and the people that were, you know, that had a big part in that church. And that was like 1870s, 1880s. There's like a crowd of people: Fulton Cox, Charles Moody, James Thomas. A couple of the people were contraband that actually came up with some of the local Civil War soldiers, followed them back here. And then there's people like James Thomas, who he ran away. He hid here, and he's here. He shows up in 1850 on the census, and he lies. He says he's from New Jersey, and actually later on, I think, I forgot what time period, all of a sudden he comes clean and tells everybody, and they do a story in the newspaper, I really was an escaped slave, and he goes down to try and find his mother. So there are some incredible stories of people. We know he lived, he and Fulton Cox's house is still there. It's on Pencil Hill, which was actually called Zion Street, Zion Road. And then they changed it to Pencil Hill. But it was called Zion, obviously, because the AME Zion Church was there. And there's some other, you know, there are areas, obviously, where the Oliver House is. And that's something that I kind of don't quite know what's going on yet, because I've gotten different stories from the village. And the mayor, the first thing was the house is being moved, then from the house being moved, it's like, no, the house is going to stay there, and we're going to put a historic plaque up on it. But there's nothing about the park and the kiosk that I was hoping to be able to put up there, because I thought that would be a great starting place for a walking tour. You'd start there, and we'd have kind of like what I did at the courthouse site, where there was, you know, I did a story map, and you just put your phone to it, and, you know, it's a barcode kind of thing, and you get the story map. And then it would be a self-guided type of tour where you could, you know, these were the houses that, again, it can't be just houses that people of color lived in, because I don't think people are going to be that excited, oh, this is a house that a person of color lived in. We've got to find some stories that go along with it. Well, this person was involved in this. Like, to me, the site where Pegasus is one of, you know, that was Bud's Tavern, and the site of a really interesting court case that went on that dealt with an enslaved woman and a free man, which I'm going to be doing my talk at the end of August for the library. And I'm going to tell some stories about things that happen. I won't go into all the stories. Sorry, my phone is. So again, it all depends what the village says in terms of, is there just going to be a plaque up on the Oliver House? Like, has anyone told the Historic Commission about that now, what the new story is?
Susan, I can fill you and everybody else in on that. I was going to do it later in the meeting, but if you'd like, I can tell you now.
Okay.
So you're right that the original thinking was to try to find somebody who wanted the house and was willing to move it, and stewards would have been agreeable to that. However, they then changed their position and said that they would be fine donating the house and the plot of land on which it sits. And so now we've got the opportunity of saving the house and probably, I never really had a lot of faith that we would find somebody who to move the house. It's just so expensive to do that, and the house itself is going to need a lot of work. However, what seems to be developing, and I talked to the mayor just a few hours ago to make sure I'm up to speed. The village is going to probably going to acquire the house and a parcel of land from stewards. It's going to put out a request for proposals, and it's going to entertain developers or purchasers who want to make a want to restore the house and accommodate some kind of historical signage, which could potentially include a kiosk. I don't think that's been ruled out. But I think what's become clearer to me is that the village is not in a position to take on more of a new park. So I think that the likelihood that it would be similar to the sign that you were involved with on Huguenot Street that would mark, this time accurately, you know, the Wine Coop House, and that would be space for us to give a brief
Wait, you're
history
calling,
of-
wait, what do you mean by the Wine Coop House? Which house are you talking about now?
Number 5, I'm sorry, the
Oliver House.
number 5 Broadhead, which Wine Coop had a hand in but didn't build. So this is our opportunity because the village is going to serve as conduit for whoever ends up owning the house that can put some additions on it. And one thing I've been advocating for is the house itself should be landmarked. The new owner has to agree to that possibility, and that we want historical signage on the property. That's where we are. Nothing's been
Right, so that whole
decided
other,
yet.
the other stuff won't actually happen there. So that's what I was thinking, because again, this whole other idea, which was the original idea, was a whole different thing. That was like, I thought we'd have to get grant money to be able to do what we were, there was like another subcommittee that was talking about that as well. So that's probably because there was some money from the Methodist Church, because the Reverend there had talked about it, because she wanted to do some kind of designation where the AME Zion Church was, set up something, Reverend Berry. So it seemed like there were a lot of people involved, and then kind of like everyone wasn't together. Like the mayor was doing something, and I guess you were involved with that. Then I was involved with it with Albert Cook and Reverend Berry and some other people from the village board. So it got confusing, and then I just kind of stayed back, and it's just like whatever I can help with, I'm really happy to help with. I guess I want to just wait till I know what's really happening at the site before I can even think about, like, I certainly would help you landmark it because I know quite a bit about it. And I am friends with Richard and Ann Oliver's great-great-granddaughter, Joan Miller, who is waiting to hear what's happening with the house. She lives in Westchester, and you know, I think she's more than thrilled to know that that house isn't going to be dissolved. You know, and again, I don't know if you got it, but I sent a picture of her mother, or is her grandmother, I think it's her mother, must be her grandmother, and her great uncle playing by the house.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, I didn't see that. If you can think to
send
it to me or to Val, we would enjoy that.
I went through a whole thing because in the house books at Haviland Highgard, that house was always called 3. And so my notes had it as 3. So I had to go through a deed search and then go through the deed maps. It took quite a bit so that I could verify that indeed that Anne and her daughter, Margaret, bought both properties, 5 and 7. They were lots 13 and 15. And so the house next door is also the house that her daughter bought as well. So that house to me is, you know, is pretty special too.
Yeah. No, agreed. And Susan, just to follow up on a point you made a second ago, I too am happy that we can look forward to a future where that house is going to stay, because I really think that where we were headed is that the house was going to be torn down. There just wasn't.
That would have been very sad. Would have been.
Yeah,
sad.
there wasn't going to be anybody who was willing to spend $50,000 to move the house in a short time that we had. And so I think what we want to do, and this is for my fellow commissioners too, is to be as proactive as we can in making sure that when request for proposals goes out, it includes what we want to see happen. Ideally, we can't completely control who submits, but you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be a free or nearly free piece of village property with some restrictions, with some structures around it. Susan, what about the question of walking tour? I know that you and I corresponded with Richard at one point. That we were thinking that perhaps by the fall, socially distant walking tours could resume.
If Rich, like, again, it all depends on what kind of world we're living in by September, October. Like Richard had said, Richard called me and asked me how I felt. And I said, Richard, I can't tell you what to do. I know some of what he has is based on some of my research, but I said, I have quite a bit, like he doesn't have a fraction of what I'm going to be finding now. And so I said, I'm willing to correct what he does, but I can't just give him all my research. So I don't know exactly when I'll be ready with my exhibit. There's going to be a virtual exhibit that will include, you know, it's going to be kind of like the disappearance of the New Paltz. I'm trying to think of a good title for it, but it will be kind of the disappearance of this community, this vibrant Black community that was here. So I don't know. It's a lot of work and I want to do a good job before I do it. I'm going to use the Emeka platform, the same platform I used for the Missing Chapter exhibit. And I will be giving, you know, I'm certain the library asked me already, as soon as it's done, will I do a talk? And I'm happy, you know, I've worked with Richard before. I'm happy to, you know, if he's doing the talk, but I can't, like, I'd be willing to do, you know, again, I'm kind of not going out much. I don't go out very much, and I'm extremely anxious about being around people right now. And I don't see it getting better in the fall. I'm maybe not as optimistic as other people, but I feel a little weird about a walking tour, even that's socially distant, if this virus is coming back here. Like if it is today, you know, what yesterday was 0, supposedly, like if it's like that, sure. But I can't plan anything, but I did tell Richard if he decides he wants to do it, that's fine. I would check his notes and make sure he didn't have anything that wasn't correct. But I'd have to, again, I'm going through, this is a big problem too, is because the library has house books and I don't want to go into the library. I've asked them if, since I used to work and volunteer at the library, I've been on that board for 6 years and I am the town historian, I asked if they could bring the books out to the courtyard because I could, that's something I could do, but they are not willing to do that at this point. So I need to get some of those house books to help me in terms of placing where people were living. And that's an important part of this because again, I know it's Plains Road, Pencil Hill, parts of North Chestnut, Broadhead, Mulberry, and like, again, there are people living in other people's houses. Like I know there are people living at Moses P. Lefebvre's, which is on, is that already when it's called Old Kingston Road? I think it's not Huguenot Street anymore. It's Old Kingston Road.
Yeah, Old Kingston.
So, so I don't know. Like I'm willing to certainly, like if Richard wants to do it, that's fine. I just don't know, again, when I could do something until I see. I'm working really hard, and I'm up to 1850, which is before Gardner breaks off. So there's like 200, or I forgot, 200 and something people on the census that I have to put in. And then I've done all the rest already. So maybe it'll be done by the fall, but, I'm hoping.
Well, and as you said, kind of at the top of that comment, we also just don't know where we'll be in the fall. It may be universally agreed that it's just not the time for walking tour of any sort.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to feel responsible that people on a walking tour got too close together and something happened. I just can't.
Right. Well, Susan, what about this? You heard earlier that we're going to meet again on September 21st. By that point, I'm pretty sure that we will have a request for proposals and maybe even have a proposal chosen. Can we plan to check in sometime before that with the possibility that you might come back to us?
Sure, and I told Richard, again, I like working with Richard, I worked with him at Huguenot Street, and again, I'm happy to look at what he has, and if he wants to do a walking tour, that's fine, that's fine with me. Whatever he'd like to do is fine. I just, the same thing I told him, I don't know what each day brings lately. Usually I would kind of make deadlines for myself and say, this is when it's going to be done, but I don't know what I'll be doing or what I'm doing. But I'm excited about it because this is something I wanted to do for a long time. I started it years ago, but I started it in like 1753, that time period. I think that was when that first census was taken, and I was moving up. So I got to, I think, 1820 or 30. And it's really hard to go through those early censuses because you have to go like all the way to the second page and follow the lines across, and there's like slash, 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 So again, I'm just really trying to get a big picture, and it's hard to do that. And then I get caught up in other stuff like where the burial grounds are and finding other clippings. We have more than you think in terms of burial grounds. So.
Oh yeah, I think everybody agrees on that.
That's your B1.
That's our B1, right?
That's your B1.
Yeah,
but I'd love to work with you. I enjoy working with people. The co-author of my In Defiance book is editing. After I do each census, she goes back and edits each one to make sure I've copied the information correctly. And she's really good at that. So, and then hopefully the talks I'll give at the library, through the library, not at the library, but virtually, may help some of the situations, whatever places that again, I started doing some of this stuff 20 years ago. That's when we put that marker up, was 20 years ago, which was amazing. Right. When I realized it was 20 years, and I think I told Chris that it took us a year to come up with the verbiage on that sign, a year.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get a group of people together to decide on like a paragraph, and each word costs money. So we were like, okay, how can we say this in an abbreviated version? And I have to say that I'm very excited about the interest in that site again. I know that's your B1, but I may not be able to hang out too long. My husband and my son may kill me if I don't make them dinner soon, but I'm very excited that there's a new interest in that. I would love to see some other markers up where some of the other sites are, because there's not just one site.
Yep, so. I absolutely agree. It's 20 years later, Susan, but thank you for your work on making that sign happen. And as you say, we'll talk about that a little later, but let
Does
me not
anyone-
stand between your husband and child's dinner.
No, does anybody have any questions like that I might be able to help with or?
No, thank you.
No.
No.
Shh. My husband.
Yeah, that sounds like a hungry husband. Sue, thank you very much. And let's just be in touch by email. I'll certainly keep you posted as the RFP for 5 Broadhead emerges. I know it's in draft, and I think it's just sort of waiting for information from stewards at this point.
Okay, sure. And again, when you landmark it, I'm very happy to help. And, you know, when I can come in and sit in on some of the meetings sometimes, it's helpful for me. I try to do it with the town on occasion too. It's a lot easier with Zoom because I don't have to go out. But it's good to kind of know what you're up to, what you're doing. So I don't like all of a sudden find out something. I'm like, oh no, I wasn't involved, but I'm not coming to your meeting, so I didn't know what you were doing. So this way, if I get your minutes, it's great. You know, it's great so that I can, you know, coordinate village, town, so I know what everybody's doing. And also, you know, I'm supposed to be a resource for you. So when you have questions on things, please call me, email me. You know, I'm here to help all of you. So, and I'm not that old, but I've been doing local history here. I worked at Huguenot Street for 9 years and I was a volunteer there for years before then. I've been doing, you know, don't ask me about world history, but I've been doing local history here. Again, the thing I'm most involved with is obviously people of color and poverty. Those have been my major interests, but working at Huguenot Street for 9 years, I certainly learned a lot about the Huguenots and that as well. So anytime there's anything I can help you with, please, you know, ask me. I'd love it.
We will do that. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to come up.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Susan.
Sure, sure. And you have a nice night now, everybody, okay?
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. You do the
too.
same.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. So everybody, I think let's move on to other business, which is Bill, with any updates from the village board.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Great. Okay. Boy, time flies and I really don't have anything else to add. I was looking for information that, excuse me, Tom, you basically updated me on what was going on with Broadhead. And that was my main interest. I'm glad that Susan straightened out the 5 versus 3 Broadhead question. I had thought maybe that there was a structure at 3 Broadhead, but apparently she looked at the maps and there wasn't a home there at that time or at any time, as far as we know. But beyond that, I'm glad to hear that, you know, the project's moving forward. Seems like each week something else is added or removed from the planning process, but you know, and I haven't heard anything about whether or not there's an interested party in the building yet. So
No, I don't have anything definite yet, but you know, presumably that's what the request for proposals would tell us.
yeah, and that'll take some time, of course. I'm just hoping that Stewart's is willing to allow that time to happen, so it doesn't interfere with their plans.
Yeah. No, it appears they are, and I think what made the difference is if it's staying on site, then it doesn't have to be demolished, and therefore they can work next to it. So yeah. Bill, is there any word on the liaison? Will you be continuing with us, or is
For the
changed
time,
since last meeting?
for the time being.
Okay. We're certainly happy to have you as long as we get to keep you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just not sure yet what's happening with my Monday nights at this time. So,
Okay. Well, thanks for the report, and thanks for not including any bad news in it.
yeah, well,
Um,
yes, always happy not to give you bad news.
yeah, thanks. Okay, well, we can move on, I think, to B1, which is mostly to thank Camilla for absolutely wonderful work on the historical marker, which I hope everybody's seen in its newly painted form. It really pops, it's really beautiful. And Camilla, just a huge, huge thank you to you and Orkant for doing it and figuring out a way to remove it from sight to speed up the process or make it an easier process.
Yes,
So, Camilla,
definitely. It was a
great
very
hand
big
to you.
help that we could remove the sign. And I'm really happy that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah. And I hope that paint holds for another 20 years. We did it
I
the
hope
right
so.
way.
But
Yeah.
if not now, I know how to paint it.
Yeah.
Through trial and error, I learned the ways of sign painting. So if
Yeah.
need be, I can do it again, no problem.
There's a future sideline for you.
Yes.
Good. Well, thank you so much indeed. And
And thank
Valerie,
you for the opportunity.
thanks to Valerie as well, who helped out at every stage. And I also wanted, in case people don't know Chris Owens, who's on the call, to acknowledge Chris and also thank him for his intense interest in the project. We basically, at an early stage, kind of divided our labors, I guess you could call it, and said that the HPC would take care of the sign painting and working toward improving the site with some new plantings. And Chris, I don't know, is this a good time to update us a little bit on where that is?
Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. So, hi everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
So basically, yeah, big shout out to Camilla for painting the sign because it looks phenomenal. And if you look at it, it is not an easy sign to paint. So thank you for having the patience, honestly, for doing that. So the most recent update I have is I've gotten in touch with various different people. Historic Huguenot Street included, Dr. Williams Myers. I actually had spoken with Susan a bunch of times. But as far as, so basically I think my next step is that I'm meeting with Historic Huguenot Street to talk about projects that they're doing. I was supposed to meet them last week, but I unfortunately had a couple other things I had to do. So I'm gonna get in touch with them and hopefully reschedule a time where we can figure out what exactly they're doing, but they have a lot of interest in helping out in any capacity that they can or have expressed that so far. So that's cool. But the biggest update I have so far is that Elizabeth from Bloom, I think it's Elizabeth Elkin, Liz Elkin. I met with her at the site, and she is also super down to be involved in it as far as landscaping and improving this site as a whole. Mainly trying to make it so that the sign and the existing bench, which are both beautiful features, are incorporated into the same site rather than two kind of structures that sit on the same street. So, but she has agreed to help and is willing to do a lot of it at cost to help out. And I have a lot of people who are interested in donating. So I think that by the day, it's becoming a more and more achievable thing to have like a full site restoration. And then at some point, as Susan had mentioned earlier, you know, obviously COVID pending, many different things. We would like to have a ceremony of some sort to acknowledge the site restoration, whether it would include speakers or anything else. But apparently they used to do it every year up until 2 or 3 years ago. So
That's right.
yeah, so I don't think it's like that far-fetched to just say, you know what, we're starting getting the gang back together again. We're starting it up again. And so I think that it would, I think that there's, everybody has been expressing great interest in it. A lot of like younger people too, which is great. Just because, you know, they getting involved at a younger age is great. And I don't know, I just think that's awesome to see. So yeah, thank y'all for all the help and everything. And seriously, again, Camilla, for painting it. And yeah, I have photos at some point, you know, of the process, and that hopefully I'll be able to consolidate. Also with the paperwork from the original, I think it would be cool to try and include some of that to show people, you know, why it's there in the first place, how it got there in the first place, and things of that nature. So yeah, but those are the major updates. And then as Susan had mentioned before, it would be really awesome if, you know, this could just be the start of acknowledging many of the burial grounds that exist around New Paltz that we, you know, don't have markers for just yet. So I think that, you know, once we do this, hopefully it can open the door to doing, you know, more of that and just further acknowledging our history and our Black history specifically. So yeah, thanks for having me though. And if anyone has any questions,
Chris.
Find me in town.
It's an important. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful initiative. Please let us know if there's something we can do to help promote. I mean, you know, we routinely do press releases. So if you get to a point where maybe you're collecting donations, we can help write that if you want help.
Totally.
Put our name to something, you know, everything's got to be voted on, but, you know, I think we're in favor of your work for sure.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, the more people we can get involved and the more organizations we can get involved, it's only going to help it be more of a legitimate, you know, undertaking. So I'm going to let I really should start trying to figure out if I can update a lot of people, because now I'm starting to be like, oh God, I like totally forgot to talk to this person, talk to that person. So maybe on my end, I can kind of consolidate this information for anyone that has any questions. But yeah, I'll let you know, of course, any updates I have with that. And as I said, my next thing is to get in touch with Huguenot Street. Once I do that, we can take the next step.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Please keep us posted.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Does anybody have a question around that topic?
No, thank you.
Okay. So let me go. It's cruising toward 8:30, so I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. Item B2 is just to update you from the meeting on 17th. The feeling was pretty unanimous at that meeting that moving toward an architectural or design review board would be a positive way to kind of nudge the initiative for code revisions. And so I spoke with the mayor today just to sort of hear his thoughts on this, and he thought it had a lot of merit. The idea that I'm going to suggest, and I'd be willing to write up and circulate in the next couple of days or weeks, is an idea where the Historic Preservation Commission actually gets renamed, and we become the Architectural or Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission. So we're not expecting the village to come up with a whole new commission. We would do that work. And what we would do, according to the thinking that I'm having now, is create a long form COA and a short form COA. And according to whether somebody is in a landmarked house or in a historic district, they would do the short form or the long form. And there'd be lots of exclusions if you're outside the zone. So I think that what this would do is alleviate the kinds of fears that we were having, that people who live in modern houses on modern streets are suddenly going to be tasked with long, complicated forms that make them feel anxious. And so just in a general way, I'd be interested in hearing whether people think that's a direction worth pursuing and writing up and kind of thinking about as a new direction for code revisions. So basically, the COA form would stay the same for Huguenot Street, for landmark properties, and I would hope for the downtown district. And everybody else would have like a light version or a simplified or shortened version of that form, where we would be asking just much more basic questions about projects, and we would be excluding a lot of things that might draw our attention on Huguenot Street but wouldn't matter on a modern street. So I'd be interested to know if there are any responses pro or con to that.
It sounds good to me.
Go ahead.
So that was Pat. And
Yeah.
Sue, did I hear you as well?
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I just wanted to say it sounds very good to me. Makes a lot of sense.
And I was going to say basically the same thing. I think it's a great concept.
Okay.
I think it's a logical progression. It makes an enormous amount of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Miller,
Yeah, I
thought?
support the change as well.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. That seems pretty universal. So let me try to, and I have to say, I got this idea from some communities that already do this. So there's some kind of nice blueprints for how one can structure this. And I think one of the other advantages is, you know, in a strange way, I think historic preservation is starting to be a more complex term right now. And taking on another title, you know, the same commission performs two things. One is more abstract and the other is more design or architecture related, might actually be an improvement in how we're perceived or how historic preservation might be perceived. So it's kind of a side effect, but I think it might be a good avenue to think about. Any questions or comments around that? And if not, I'll move on. Okay. I did not attend the meeting on July 16th, and I'm wondering if anybody did. That would have been last Thursday. I just couldn't do it. Anybody present?
I did. I attended, Tom.
Val, did I hear you?
Yes, I attended. The village board approved the plan, so it goes to referendum
Great.
in November. I think it's November.
I think that the HPC should have a role in making a statement in support of it. So maybe we can make that a September agenda item to discuss.
Okay.
Right. Val, would you like to deliver the good news on the training for A?
Well, I don't know who has already completed it and who has not, but I think you've all been copied on the emails that have come from the village clerk about the requirement. There are 4 different trainings that are happening over a period of time, and any one of them would meet the requirement for village staff and volunteers. So, and Tom and I both, if we've completed the ones at SUNY New Paltz, we can turn in our certificates of completion, and that'll cover us. But I'm not sure what the status is of everybody else on the board, so might be helpful to
Remember
know
the
that.
dates of?
The next one is the 28th, I believe. I don't think other dates have been released yet. And that may be the 3rd of the 4. I'd have to go back and check for sure.
Okay.
I've signed up for the one on the 28th.
So did I.
Okay.
I was not able to do the first one. So
I
Same
have
for me.
completed the, oh, please go ahead.
That's all.
Camilla, how long was the commitment?
It was about 45 minutes.
Okay,
It wasn't very long at all.
okay. That's great. Well, Val, if you could think about maybe a reminder, I don't know, this weekend or something that might be useful to people.
A reminder in advance of the 28th, you mean?
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe, you know, around the 20th or something.
Sure. Sure. And am I correct that everybody is receiving it? Because I think it's going to the group email.
Yeah, I've
Yes,
been.
I did.
I did. Yes.
Okay, good to know. All right, sure. I'll tickle my calendar to put in a reminder next week.
Thanks, that would be great. The other is the 2020 forum. If anybody is interested in signing up for that, please let us know and we'll arrange to pay the registration. I'm actually not sure I can commit to it personally, but absolutely if somebody wants to. How about follow up on the art show, Camilla and Zach?
I don't have anything new to report on that, except that because of the sign painting, I kind of lost track of time with the press release, which I'm going to right now. And I also thought that maybe if we can spread out some press releases from the HPC over a period of time, instead of having 2 or 3 at a time, that might be a better idea. So
I would agree.
I will write up something, and we can have it printed perhaps in the next edition.
That would be great. I don't think there's any particular rush either. So if you're busy, you can put it off.
And since the pictures will be up indefinitely, we don't really have any pressing time concerns.
Zach, is there anything you had to contribute on that point?
No, unfortunately, I haven't made any more progress on the website, but I think we have the photos ready. You know, we have a shared Dropbox for the at least 3 years of the art show. So yeah, maybe, I mean, I think for next month, I could try to have you know, some sort of design that I could share with the rest of the commission for everyone to take a look at and give suggestions on. That would be my next step.
That'll be great. Is there ways to make it live on the web but invisible to people who don't get the URL?
I'm not 100% sure about the village website, but there might be.
Okay. I know sometimes you can, but I don't know the ins and outs of ours. That sounds great. Well, thanks. Sue, anything from Huguenot Street?
I don't have anything, and I have to be honest, I haven't been walking on the street much the last couple of weeks. It's just been so bloody hot. So no, I don't have anything.
Okay. I guess we could ask you too, Steve.
Right.
If anything in Huguenot Street?
Things are pretty quiet on my end of Huguenot Street, or my little corner. The sewer pipe upgrades happened on Mulberry Street, just by Androgyny Hair Care. They've been working there for a couple days. Otherwise, things are pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Val, do
I-
you know of anything that's going on about the place that's across the street from you?
No, I haven't heard any updates about that.
No.
In fact, I think I checked recently to see if anything was still active in terms of fundraising and stuff, and it does not seem to be actively fundraising anymore. So I'm really not sure what the status is.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
The for sale signs are down.
Right.
It may mean that it's off the market at the moment, or it may mean that they're just kind of in a lull.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure either. This is unrelated, but I did hear, I think I'm pretty good authority that Lagusta's bid for the Agway has fallen through.
Oh,
And I forget who told me that, but it seemed like pretty good authority. And it was in the context that Kim Lim Propane was looking to open offices there. I don't know if anyone else heard that. I literally can't remember who told me that, but just a little news item. Before we leave Huguenot Street, we were asked in a very kind of hurried way for an opinion on a raised bed garden at 143 Huguenot Street. And I didn't hear anything back. I basically answered that, you know, we would like to see a drawing before offering an opinion. It wasn't clear to me if it was a vegetable garden or a flower garden, how high the bed would be raised, how big it was. And I just didn't hear anything.
Nor did I. And I completely forgot to ask Corey if he had heard any more. I just didn't think about it when I was in touch with him today.
Okay. I'm honestly not sure if we have jurisdiction. It's not a permanent feature, but you know, I took the occasion to ask for more information. Planning board applications. Well, I guess I just covered one about the Agway. I'm not aware of anything else that hasn't already been mentioned. Valerie, are you?
No, I'm not at the moment.
Okay.
Are you getting the, sorry, Tom, are you getting the minutes in a timely fashion? Are you getting them like a day after, 2 days after the meetings?
I'm not, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to HPC.
They are not going to.
Are they is it the intention of the planning board to have minutes done that quickly?
Well, what's been happening is Alana's been doing them fairly soon, a day or two afterwards. I know that she'd be more than happy to forward you what they, you know, the drafts of the minutes, so you can look at those.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. She does great minutes. So.
Oh yeah, she absolutely does. I will ask Alana to include us on drafts if that's yeah.
Sure.
That's a good idea, Bill. Everyone, I don't have a budget report this month. Nothing came to you, did it, Val?
No, it didn't.
We're so early in the year that I don't think it matters, and I don't think we spent anything. So let's let that. If we were to have a meeting in August, are people around?
I am.
Yeah, I am too.
I think so.
Okay. It sounds like we don't have to, but something could pop up in the next couple of weeks where we may want to do that, and we can make that a one. Steve, we probably have never explained this, so we don't usually meet in August or December.
Okay.
But maybe half the time there's some application that we don't want to hold up. We got very close to that today with the Reformed Church. And in those cases, we try to have a 20-minute, one agenda item meeting, just not to hold people up.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Yeah. Last of all, item number 11, I checked with Tim this afternoon, and at this point, there really isn't a protocol or an expectation that village board meetings are going to start being face-to-face. He said, and you probably know this too, Bill, that I guess some discussion has gone on about possible outdoor meetings of the village board. but I don't think anything is firm, right?
That's right. We were thinking maybe this meeting we're having Wednesday, we do it in person, social distancing and all that being observed. But the weather forecast is for thunderstorms in the evening, so I don't think we're doing it. But we may pick it up the following meeting. It's the option of the trustees and members whether or not they want to attend in person or not.
Okay, so it would be an option to the trustees.
Yeah, and to the public. But we're thinking of doing them outdoors. I mean, we're just talking about doing it outdoors adjacent to Village Hall.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we'd be interested in watching how that goes. At our last meeting, you know, there was some receptiveness to possibly having this meeting in a socially distant face-to-face way. And I think with the flare-up, there wasn't much appetite for asking that question again. But we can see where we are in 2 months. Everybody, that's our agenda. Am I
Tom,
forgetting anything that?
could I just
Sure.
interrupt for just a second? I meant to include a reminder. Ariana had sent a message to all of us about the Ulster County Long Range Transportation Plan Survey, just inviting input. So that should be in everyone's email. And then Zach had an item he wanted to address as well.
Yes, thank you, Val. So recently I've been talking to some different people, Tim, Tom, Ariana, other members of the community about potentially joining the planning board. So I, this weekend, sent them my letter of interest. As I'm sure you're aware, they've been looking for another person to join the board. And I don't think that means I'm going to be resigning from the HPC immediately, but maybe, you know, that's coming in September, or if we meet in August, but I just want to say I've learned a lot over the past year of serving on the commission and working with all of you, and it's been really interesting and valuable. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you just on the planning board. But yeah, I think nothing is set in stone yet, and I'll have more information on Wednesday, I guess.
Well, Zach, thank you very much. And everybody, I would just like to comment and to compliment Zach for all that you've done. When you contacted me, of course, the first response was a selfish one. I would rather not lose you. And then the more magnanimous, community-minded response came in that I think the planning board could really use your talents. And I feel very good about that decision if it ends up coming, and I really hope it does at this point. So please accept our thanks, and my thanks in particular, and let us know how Wednesday goes, if you would, please.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I will. I'll certainly keep everyone updated, and yeah, I'll be here for the next meeting as well, and figure out, you know, where to go from there.
That sounds absolutely great. So I think maybe officially at this point, nothing's changed, but we will anticipate that may be happening.
Yes, that's correct.
I have to say, when you contacted me, Zach, the next day or 2 days later, I thought to get in touch with Steve to ask what his feelings were about, you know, in this event, stepping in as full-time member. And Steve, I'll let you speak for yourself on that.
I'm very honored. I would be happy to serve on the commission. Zach, this wasn't exactly anything I was expecting that would come my way. I think, yeah, for sure, the planning board could use your assistance, and I'm happy to help out here in any way I can.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So
Yeah, it made the decision much easier knowing that we had 2 alternates and a solid commission already.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I think where we are procedurally is that's an expectation at this point, but nothing official. So we can just leave everything alone for a meeting or two, and we'll see how things go for you, Zach. And at that point, we can contact the village board and let them know what's happening on both ends. But Zach, thank you very much indeed for your service, and we'll see you for at least one more meeting, I hope.
Yes, definitely.
That's great. Is there any other business that we should address? Okay. I wanted to just introduce something that is bound to embarrass Valerie, but I didn't want her friends and colleagues on HPC not to know this. I found out very late, like a couple of weeks ago, that in May, she was given a very prestigious award by SUNY, a Chancellor's Award for Excellence, which didn't surprise me at all, but caught me by surprise, if you can appreciate that difference. So Valerie, I just wanted to say thanks for everything you do here, and it'll come as no surprise that you've been honored by your day job for excellence in service. We know how you serve. So
Thank you, Tom. That's very
congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I appreciate the acknowledgement. And you should all know that Tom also was a Chancellor's Award recipient a few years back for excellence in teaching. So he knows where he speaks, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
But thank you, Val. But it's really wonderful, Valerie. And I think you said it came as a complete surprise, right?
It did. It was, actually kind of blew me away. I happen to work with the faculty committee that prepares the nominations, and they kept me completely in the dark. So anyway, that made it especially gratifying.
Wonderful.
That's nice. I wish that we had something equivalent. We would do it secretly for the village, but I know there isn't such a thing.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure. Well, everybody, if we're out of agenda items, let's have our evening back. And thank you so much, everybody, for all your work and service and goods. And I'll plan to be in touch with a schema for code revisions and an architectural or design review board idea as soon as I can get to it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Have a great late summer.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
So moved.
Thank you. So
Thank
we
you.
have moved and seconded. Was there a second?
Seconded, if it hasn't already been seconded.
I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks again. And Zach, again, thank you so much.
Thank
Zach,
you.
I'll be lucky to have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Our loss
Good
will
night,
be the
everybody.
board for the running board game for sure. Good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Right.
Yeah.
Night.
Night.
Bye.
Good night, Sue. So
Good
glad
night.
it worked perfectly.
Yes.
Actually, perfectly. Like I hear you very clearly.
It's over.
Well, good night. Val, let's follow up tomorrow with action items.
Okay, I am just noticing that Carol Bergman has a couple of comments in the chat now. She must have been listening to Susan.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm going to respond to her. She asked who the Richard was that Susan was talking about, and announcement about the refurbished sign, whether it had gone into HVI. I don't think it has. Well, actually, it has. Yes, it has. It went in.
Yeah, because they're really
I'll let her
combined.
know that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
And feel free to copy me if you want to. That would be great.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to respond in the chat.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks very much, Val. Good night.
Thanks, Tom. Good night.
Yep.